Hello, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel, and today I thought I would continue my discussion on how to control the 5D shift, how to consciously exit the 3D matrix, as opposed to what is probably happening to most people where it is happening to them. If they're unaware of it, they may not understand what is going on in the world. They may not understand how they are feeling. For people who know about this shift, who are aware of it, there's still plenty of people who are waiting for it to happen to them. When the solar flash comes, when the 5D shift comes, then I'll be okay. Then I'll do what I want, etc., etc. And of course, I don't think that is the best strategy. So we're going to talk today about how to consciously exit the 3D matrix. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. And here on this channel, I give you practical tools to help you shift into 5D. I would normally do a live stream where I sit here and talk to you, except that the internet service where I'm currently living has a very slow upload, so I don't really want to look at myself with frozen frames all the time. So we will have to enjoy my little slideshow as it comes through. So I have been doing a lot of what I call interdimensional meditation. In fact, I do it on a daily basis. It's the one thing that I make sure that I do every day. And it is continuing to change and to shift and to grow. And I believe that this is an extremely important tool. I would like to teach it to everybody, but it's something that you have to want to do. So the shift to 5D is also something you have to want to do. And what I mean by that is not just hoping something will come and save you, hoping some shift will come which will magically fix it all for you and save you. That is not what I mean when I say you have to want the shift. In other words, you have to want the shift whether it's coming or not, whether you feel it or not. Because what is that the shift to 5D is not an escape from the matrix. You hear people talking a lot about escaping the matrix. And this was a long time ago, but I remember interacting with somebody online who was just saying, I want to escape the matrix. I hate it here. I'm miserable. Everything is horrible. And I said, well, even if you were to find a physical portal that you could walk through that would take you out of the matrix, you would end up destroying wherever you ended up going, because you would bring yourself with you. And so it is an illusion that you are not creating everything that you are experiencing. And I know that can be challenging to hear, but again, anything, once you've done something and you look back on it in hindsight, you go, oh, now it makes sense. So now that I have a tiny bit of a taste of what this shift is, and I may be clear, I believe I am in the shift. I am experiencing the shift. I haven't shifted, past tense, and I don't know what that would look like, even if that is what's going to happen. I don't know what that's going to be like. All I can tell you is that I am making a shift now. And as I continue to shift, I am learning that it is what it's always been. The difference is that with this new solar wave phenomenon that we're experiencing, and I think right now we're in a slight lull. We had a couple, 2-3 waves that came through that were pretty powerful, and I think we're experiencing maybe a little bit of a lull at the moment. But the only thing that happens as a result of this solar wave ascension is that you go through the same process you would normally go through. You just go through it a lot more quickly. And so that's one of the reasons why it feels so intense. Because the same thing is happening, it's just happening more quickly. Then I guess you don't have as much choice in the matter. You're going to have to shift whether you like it or not, but you're still going to have to go through the same process. The same process of taking full responsibility for what you are creating in your world. It is your job to take full and complete responsibility for your shifting. And so I think that we should be doing it proactively. And as I said, this is something you have to choose to do. You know, some people talk about this shift and, the solar flash or the ascension. And a lot of people are talking about how there's going to be 2 Earths. And you can choose to ascend up to 5D or you can choose to stay in 3D. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't seen anything to prove that to me. I think that belief that when the shift comes that there's going to be, all of the conscious people are going to be on the good, happy earth, and all of the, the unconscious, mean people are going to be on the old earth. And I think that's a projection. In fact, it's ironic because in that projection, there's a desire for exclusionism, a desire to feel superior. It shows a fear of the so-called bad people. And it's, this is what murderers do. When murderers kill somebody, they think they're going to get rid of the thing that's bothering them. And of course, that doesn't happen. Getting rid of the person you supposedly are, wanting off of this planet doesn't take away the part within you that responded to whatever it was that, that person represented. And so it makes things even more difficult. So I don't like that idea personally. I don't think that there's going to be a shift and all of the woke people are going to go to a woke planet 5D and all of the unwoke bad people are going to be in the bad 3D. I don't think that's going to happen because if that's the case, then I'm not going to make it either because I'm not perfect. And that doesn't seem to be what's happening. The biggest things is that there's no perfection here. There's no perfection. There's no spiritual enlightenment. There's no salvation. We get to drop all of that nonsense. Salvation, enlightenment. We get to drop that. That was, to talk about that in depth would be a whole other subject. So, as you know, on this channel, we take full responsibility for everything that we do. And so, if you want to take full responsibility, the first thing you're going to have to do is decide. You're going to have to make the decision that you want this shift, that you want to do whatever you can to be conscious and aware. You're going to have to face all of your Well, I was going to say victim mentality and all the other things, but really the only thing that you need to face is your conflict. And so I recommend that everybody get this book if you haven't, or listen to me read it for free if you don't want to spend the $10 for the book or whatever. And that book is Shamanic Secret Command. Sorry, I'm typing it out here. To a Perfect Life. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. You can look for that on this channel. There is a playlist. You can get the book. You can listen to me read it. But in that book, I'm really happy with that book. I think it's still the most important book. I think even when we get to 5D, it's going to be something people will need to read because it's going to be the same. Which is, you have to face your conflict. And life is boiled down, if you want to simplify human three-dimensional life, and possibly what will happen in 5D as well, we can simplify life into two basic things. First one is that you've only come here for one reason. You've incarnated into three-dimensional reality for one reason and one reason only. And that is to do the one thing that your soul wants to experience. People used to talk about it being God's will, or your purpose, or your destiny. People say, I just want God to tell me why I'm here. What am I supposed to do? And the reason why those questions and those prayers never work out is because that's not what it's about. That assumes that somebody's going to tell you what you're supposed to do, that you're going to wait around for somebody to command you to do it. And if you think about it, our life is on this planet is built like that. As soon as you're 5 years old, you're sent off to school, and you have to go to school. And you're told where to go, and you're told what to study, and you're told what to believe. And then when you're done with that, you're told you have to go to college. And same thing, you're told what class to go to and where you're supposed to go. Now you get to pick what is your major, which is kind of, your career choice. And that gives you some feeling of choice, but you only have a limited number of choices. There's a lot of things, like there's no major for what I do in life. There's no university that would teach you what I do in life and what I do for a living. It's not possible. Everything that is my business, that I make money off of, is a direct result of things that I have chosen to study and learn that can't be learned in a university. But when you go to university, you're given these choices. Oh, I'm going to be a business major. I'm going to be a communications major. I'm going to be a psych major. I'm going to be going to medicine, whatever it is. But you're still in that same trap where you're being told what to do and where to go and what to study and what to believe. And so when it comes to your life, you want things to be like that again. You want to be a passive participant where God comes to you and says, your purpose in life is, you're here to do, God has called you, whatever. But that never works. Unless that happens to be what your soul already wanted to do. But the one thing that you've come here to do is to live what your soul wants. Your soul wants to have fun. There's the only thing that matters. I'm learning this more and more. The only thing that matters is, am I experiencing joy? And I just got a confirmation as I said that from my friends. The only thing that matters is joy. It's the only thing that exists. And so this is why psychotherapy only goes so far. Psychotherapy can only help you become conscious of, what your hang-ups are. But it won't fix the problem. In order for the problem to get fixed, you have to know what it is that gives you joy. And even then, that's not enough. Because we live in a universe that is manifested. The final act of manifestation is the actions that you take. And so once you know what your joy is, what gives you joy, then you must act on it. That's the one commandment. That's the shamanic secret commandment. The one commandment to your life is you must take action toward your joy. There's no shortage of people who know what gives them joy, but they don't do it for whatever reason. And they have excuses. One of the latest excuses I heard, I'm interacting with somebody in the comments section, and I said, well, why don't you go and move to an area where you can do what it is that you want? And there was no response. And I said that because the person said, well, after the shift comes, I'll move and do that thing I want. So if you're waiting around for that, I don't know that strategy is going to work. Maybe it will. I can't say if it will or it won't. But I'm here to tell you that the process is the same. Even if the solar flash is this instantaneous thing that shifts you, without you having to do anything, you're still going to have to face that. You're still going to have that same experience. So, as I said, there are two reasons you're here. The first one is that you are here to discover what your joy is and to take action towards it. When you do that, this is why there's only one commandment, because when you do that, when you take action towards what you want, then the second reason for your being here comes into play. And that is what people call karma. People don't understand what karma is either. They think it's something negative. It's not. But your karma is your payment for resisting your joy. When you resist your joy, there will be negative consequences. And the reason why people resist their joy, very briefly, is because they want to be accepted. They want to be loved. And they have a mistaken understanding that love comes from the world. It comes from your family, it comes from your parents, it comes from your spouse, it comes from your friends, it comes from your peer group, it comes from your church, it comes from your government, it comes from your boss. This is why most people have jobs. Because they, the check that they get at the end of the week or at the end of the 2 weeks, that money to them on an unconscious level represents love and acceptance. And so this is one of the reasons, in case you want to know, why people choose to have crappy jobs instead of going and doing what they want, is because they're afraid on an unconscious level, meaning they're not aware of it. They're afraid that if they give up their job, that they'll never feel loved again. They won't feel like they have any value. They won't feel like they have any worth. They won't feel as though they have any relevance, which are all other ways of saying feeling loved. So if you want to experience this shift consciously, you're going to have to become aware that when you take action towards what you love, your 3D unconscious survival instincts, which are directly linked to your nervous system and your emotions and your thoughts, they're all one thing. Your thoughts, your emotions, your nervous system. that when you take action towards what you want, you will experience conflict. And you will experience conflict in all kinds of ways. You will experience it as fear. You will experience it as shame. You will experience it as guilt. You might have sadness. You might make yourself physically ill. All of these things are signs that you are in conflict. And this is so deeply ingrained in us that when you go through the shift, you're going to have to go even deeper into that. And I've been sharing in the past few live streams, videos, the physical transformation that I'm experiencing as a result of these solar waves that are hitting us and are changing me, shifting me. And one of the things I first noticed is that I had no physical pain after surfing. And this has never been the case in my entire life. I can remember in my 30s when, I was half my age and, supposedly, in the prime of my physical endurance and strength and all of that, if I went surfing for a couple of hours in some serious waves, I would have to take a day or two off. And if I didn't get a massage, I wouldn't be able to sleep because the muscle pain would be so bad in my neck or my lower back. And I just assumed that was the result of that physical activity, especially if there's big waves and you have to do a lot of paddling. It's serious work, and it's very, very stressful on the shoulders and the delts and the back and the lower back. But after this latest, after the full moon and the energy that hit us during the full moon, which I got the message was the beginning of what people call the solar flash. It was the beginning of the end of the 3D. That after that first experience, I found myself in physical pain. And then I looked at it and I realized that there was nothing that I was doing physically that would cause that pain. And then I realized this is psychosomatic. And that I became aware that on a deeper level that what I was doing is that every time I did the thing that gave me the most joy, that I had to punish myself. And the way I was unconsciously punishing myself was giving myself back pain, shoulder pain, and tendonitis, and I would have to go get a massage. And I went and got the massage not only to release the tension, but it's also, I like to get massages from women because I'm heterosexual, but I'm doing that because I want the love and the healing of the feminine. So I was unconsciously trying to heal myself of the shame of having experienced my greatest joy. So after this latest full moon and the energy that came with it, first I became conscious because my body started doing what it normally did, and I said, wait a second, there's nothing I'm doing that's causing it. And then I consciously told my body that I'm doing a good thing, that I'm a good boy for surfing, and that I can let go of that shame, and that I'm not harming my mother or harming my brother, which is a deep unconscious feeling that I had, is that if I was happy, I was hurting them because they were so miserable. And that was, my brother definitely made me feel like that. If I was happy, I was hurting him. And my mother gave me that feeling as well, on a deeply unconscious level, of course. But I became aware of it on a more conscious level, and I addressed it. And the pain literally disappeared, just vanished, and it's never come back. And so now I'm able to live my joy. And up until today, I went out surfing today, and finally, for the first time in about 2 weeks, it was unsurfable. But for every single day for the past, I don't know how long it is, week, 10 days, something like that, I've been out there surfing 2 hours every day, and my body's recovered just fine. And that's because there's no conflict I've resolved that conflict. So you have two reasons to come into this life. It is to experience your joy, and then you must take action on that joy. And then to experience the conflict that will arise, because the conflict will arise. Past life conflict, childhood conflict, present life conflict, whatever your resistance towards your highest life is, that conflict will arise. And you will have to interact with that. My experience is that most people knuckle under, which is why I used to do this. I used to love it, but I don't do that anymore. Maybe after the solar flash hits, I'll go do my thing. And I said, why don't you just go do it? And I can't remember what the excuse was, but there was an excuse. And that is my experience about what most people do. Most people, stop taking action towards what you want. And then you end up living less than what you want, and you complain about it. I mean, there's no point. If I find myself complaining about something, I stop and I change it. I say that because there's just, if I'm complaining about something, it obviously means that I don't like what's going on, and there's something I need to do differently. And if I'm not willing to change whatever it is I don't like, then there's no point in... What we're getting down to is that the shift to 5D will mean that you will have to take action on your joy. So if you want to speed this up, if you want the deep state elite to come crashing down, if you want all of the psychopathic bullies in this world, if you want them to lose all of their power, the fastest way for you to bring that about is to consciously and deliberately take action towards your joy, knowing that it's going to be challenging. Now, your next question to me is going to be, but Mahadeva, tell me what I can do to get over my fear. Mahadeva, tell me what can I do to deal with my fear, my anxiety. And all of those questions are based around wanting to get rid of a feeling. And the assumption that you have when you ask that question is, my feelings are stronger than I am, and I don't have the ability to take action contrary to those feelings. So tell me how to get rid of the feelings. And I don't have an answer to that. And I've always said, when did I ever say I was supposed... When did I ever say that you had to get over your feelings? I've never said that, not once. And even though I've said it 1 billion times, people keep asking me that same question. And I keep going back to what my ancestors said. Their mantra for their reality was, those who die in battle go to Valhalla. Never do they say, those who overcome their fear, those who are able to get rid of their negative feelings, those who are numb to anything and just blindly do things. It doesn't say that. It says those who take action regardless of their feelings, because that's what dying in battle signifies. It means taking action even though everything in you is telling you not to do it. Because that's what happens when people go to war. There's only the crazy psychopaths, the crazy suicidal psychopaths who want to go rushing into war. Everybody else has to do it. They just have to, regardless of, there's no shortage of stories of people in the front lines as they're waiting for as that other army is charging towards them, and all of a sudden you just hear people pissing and shitting their britches. That's part of the smell of war when it was hand to hand, was urine and feces, because people would just shit and piss themselves. And so that's an extreme, but that's what you have to be willing to do. You have to be willing to be scared out of your mind. And, me, I always go after what I want. And I've known that, since I got divorced 10 years ago, can't believe it's been 10 years now. Since I got divorced 10 years ago, I knew that the only thing, at that point I was 49 years old, and the only thing that I knew for sure was that surfing was the only thing that truly gave me the greatest joy in my life. And that I had spent 10 years not doing it. And I thought I was too old and too out of shape, and I had too many physical, problems. And I said, well, if I drown out there, I drown, but I'm going to do it. And I made it the most important thing that I did. And I remember living on credit cards and not having any money and making my way back to California and going out there and surfing. And my life started getting better. But I still was unconsciously punishing myself, even for the past 10 years. It's only been after the beginning of this solar shift that I was able to completely get rid of that. So that's the good news. The ascension is coming, and you will be able to. Happens, I'm happy for everybody, including myself. But I'm the kind of person, I'm not going to wait around for that to happen. Based on what my ET friends told me, which is that the ascension will be a result of a series of waves, solar waves hitting the earth. Based on that, based on my experience the past month, because I think it was on the 23rd, and I'm not the only person, other people had the same intuition, but the night of the 22nd, I remember feeling sad, like this is the last night of 3D, and I didn't know where that came from. And my ET friends seemed to be telling me that get ready because it's all going to change. This is it. This is the shift. It's now here. So that has come and gone. Then there's been 2 or 3 of those solar waves that have been very powerful and intense. And I don't feel as though I've completely shifted. I mean, if that's the shift, I'll take it. I'll be grateful for it. I mean, I'm living my fantasy life now, so I'm happy. If this was as good as my life got, I would be nothing but grateful. But I don't think it is. I think there's more to come. And if it is in line with what is happening from an astrophysics perspective, we are going through what's called a solar maximum, where the sun shifts her magnetic poles. And when that happens, it creates all kinds of electromagnetic activity. And so there's all kinds of solar energy and radiation that gets taught. This is the solar wave, or the solar flash is an event that will last for perhaps 2 to 3 years. So that means that we have, and I seem to be getting a confirmation as I'm saying that. So it seems that we have some time to consciously interact with this. The other thing I was told by my guides is that the solar wave will come when you're ready. Not when you're ready, sorry. The solar wave will come when you decide it's going to come. So I think there's a difference between deciding that you want to escape. There's no shortage of people who, if I told them, you have to decide for the solar flash to come, they're going to say, okay, then I'm deciding I want it to come. But what they don't realize is that they're expecting a passive escape from their feelings. In other words, they want to get over their feelings. They want somebody to come along and magically touch them on the head and take their feelings away, and they don't have to deal with it. So those people will say, yes, I want the solar flash to come. I'm deciding. But what it really means when you say you're going to decide that the solar flash is coming, it means that you are going to start taking actions to face your conflict and overcome your conflict. And again, your conflict is very simple. You have a conflict between wanting to be loved and accepted, which is expressed through your resistance. You don't take action, an action based on your resistance to your action. Not playing music, not, if you decide that your happiness is that you want to be a flute player, if you decide that your happiness is that you want to be a flute player, or a pianist, or a guitar player, the not picking up that guitar and not practicing is the action you take to stay in your resistance. And so we no longer have the excuse of, I can't do it, it's too hard. I can't do it, it doesn't feel good. I've worked with plenty of people where there comes a point where I've given them some simple instructions and they don't follow through. And after repeatedly not being able to follow through, then I say, I have nothing left to teach you. I can't help you. Because if you're not willing to at least take these small actions towards, what you want, even if it's just symbolic, then there's nothing for me to do here. So I'm wasting your money and I'm wasting your time. End up feeling that and leaving. So it is my experience, I believe, that the universe is going to be similar. That the universe is going to encourage people to choose to take those difficult actions, which will force them to look at the pain, force them to look at the shame, force them to look at how they were devalued as children, force them to look at all of that, and to take action through those feelings, regardless of those feelings. Anyway, those are some of my thoughts. I also have gone through a very rigorous process analyzing what the Ascension process is for me. And I have it listed here, the 6 phases of Ascension process. The first one is to identify your limiting 3D false ego traps in your psyche. That's a fancy way of saying becoming aware of all of the ways that your 3D mind stops you and traps you in the negativity. Second phase is to overcome the 3D false ego survival mechanisms, which is another way of saying coming to realize that you are incapable of shifting your 3D self with 3D tools. For instance, asking me, how do I get over my fear? You're trying to ask me to give you a 3D tool to fix a 3D problem. So the second phase is realizing that won't work. The third is to initiate transfer of 5D self into current 3D psyche. So when you are aware that you don't have the ability in the third dimension to change anything in the third dimension, then you become aware, in phase 2, part of what happens is you become aware that there is a higher version of yourself in a higher dimension. And you seek to turn over conscious control of your life to that higher version of yourself. And that means dying to, beginning the death process of your limited 3D identity. Fourth phase is exploring your limiting 3D programming in your unconscious self. So at that point, you will have more conscious awareness. I'm sharing with you mine. I became aware that what was happening every time I went surfing, because it made me so happy, on an unconscious level, I would punish myself, because even though I was still taking action, and I'd been taking action, especially these last 10 years. Every time I went surfing, I was taking action towards my joy. But I still had that conflict that would arise. And so I would have to go and deal with that. So in the fourth phase, you become aware on a deeper level how you are resisting, what the conflict is. Fifth phase is you've now got a much larger list of understanding of all of the ways that you act. You act out of fear, you act out of insecurity, you act out of lust or greed or competition, something like that. And so you have an awareness of all these things, and you haven't yet gotten rid of them yet because you don't have the ability to do that. And you know that the only way that you'll get rid of these things is when your higher dimensional self comes in and begins to delete those programs in your unconscious mind. And then the sixth phase is when you're actually able to delete those limiting programs, and you're able to make more room for your 5D self. What I'm experiencing now is that the world hasn't changed a whole lot, but I've changed. I'm changing very rapidly. But the world itself isn't changing. In fact, I've realized the world is pretty wonderful. The only problems with the world is the psychic bond that humans have with each other that creates this 3D matrix. It's completely created all of us together. We do it together. And I feel like I'm out of that loop. And I'm still here, and I'm still walking around 3D Earth, but I feel like I'm not hooked up to that loop as much as I was. And so that is the sixth phase. So if you're interested in that, you can see at the bottom of this graphic here that I offer a 6-month Ascension apprenticeship program, which you can get at thunderwizard.com. And I will work with you directly. I'll know exactly what questions to ask you. I will know exactly how to